Mitch McConnell actually put out a statement that was a lot more measured than some other Republicans who are immediately...
He is typically more measured.
He is typically, that is true, than the complete vindication, but in fact said, he looks forward to reviewing the additional information. I mean, how do you see this playing out on the Hill?
Well, there are a couple things. Number one, I think we should all, as Americans, be happy that the special counsel said there was no collusion. That is a good thing for our democracy and for our republic. If it had been the other thing, we would be sitting here talking about how a foreign power had tried to influence and colluded with a actual nominee for a major political party to win an election. Those are really scary things that we're talking about. So I think we should all be, as Americans, very, very glad about that. Number two, I would say I think there is a political downside to a lot of this, the overreach. There was a piece in the New York Times today about how Democratic 2020 hopefuls are not being asked about this question. Why is that? This means this is not just Republican voters who are sitting here wondering about, what is going on here supporting the president. You have Democrats themselves who are getting tired. And I think the challenge here is that there is a desire and a need to come to the truth and a conclusion here with this report, and Democrats are clearly going to continue going down this path. But there is a very real danger for Democrats to overplay their hand here, and this is not just Republican voters, but even with their own voters, that all this is going to be is just pulling different strings of legal cases, which most voters do not understand, and frankly, I'm going to say it, either D or R don't care much about, because most voters have already made their opinions made and known about Donald Trump. You either like him or you hate him, with a few in between who are going to decide the 2020 election. And it is those people, I'm going to guess, we'll have to see some polling, they probably don't care much either.
And can I just make one quick point, just your first comment there, that it's a good thing that the president obviously did not collude with a foreign power. That's the conclusion that Robert Mueller drew. Fine, but we still don't have an answer to the question of whether or not he's compromised. We still don't have an answer to the question of why has he been so deferential to the Russian president, not only the Russin president, but to any really autocratic regime. But we still don't know, and that's the counterintelligence portion of this that I think is still
But that's
missing.
not in the purview of what a special counsel does.
No, and you're totally right.
This was a legal question. If there are people with intelligence circles that have other views on that, that's their prerogative. I also am very curious as to why the Obama administration in the last 6 months of its time in office did so little to actually push back on Russia and influence. And I'm going to tell you, they went, I'm just going to say that is something they have yet to answer, and they did a lot of...
Well, part of that, that is a rabbit hole we could spend a lot of time on.
Sure.
And certainly your boss, some people are upset with how, or former boss, I should say, conducted himself.